Everyone, this is Russell Medley, and this is my AEP 858 case study. In this case study, we first look at the facts. We have Golden Oak High School. Mr. Rhodes is the principal of the school, and it's his first year. There are 965 students, and it's a 9 through 12 high school. This high school offers many extracurricular activities with sports, as well as 31 different clubs that students can join. The community is made up primarily of middle-class families. There is a mixture of those who are in poverty, as well as those who are considered in the high class. There hasn't been much diversity in the community in the past. However, recently there's been some Hispanic and Asian families who have moved in. Some parents work for local industry or manage small businesses. However, most parents commute about 1 to 2 hours to work in the adjacent city. And this makes for little time to support after school activities that students are involved in. There's also a low turnover rate among teachers. Most have been in this school at least 10 years. Dr. Newman, who's the superintendent, has described problems with the instructional program, and he wanted Mr. Rhodes to improve upon those. And one of those being the attendance, which out of all the high schools in the district, Golden Oak had the lowest. The board policy is aligned with state law. It excuses absences for things such as illness, death, inclement weather, or other valid reasons approved ahead of time by the principal. And then if students have 5 or more unexcused absences in a class, then students' grades can be penalized. I think it's 10 points at the end of the final grade. Dr. Newman has encouraged Mr. Rhodes to utilize the juvenile court system as well as social services if needed. So at the end of the first semester, Mr. Rhodes was looking at the attendance and identified 5 students who had attendance issues, who had missed 10 or more in that semester. What was really alarming is that out of this first semester, there were 659 total students who had missed 10 days or more in the first semester. So this is about 68% of the student population. There were various reasons for missing out of the 5 students mentioned. There seemed to be some inconsistencies among the staff and teachers on how the handling of the attendance. And there's also some issues with the parental views on attendance as well. So looking at some of the legal or ethical issues involved in this case study, first, the school board policy is mentioned. And I talked earlier about how it excuses absences for illnesses, death, inclement weather, or things that are approved by the principal. However, teachers aren't always reporting absences in some cases. We have the parents patrie. This is authority given to the state to provide for welfare of the children. And so it's school's responsibility to report issues if they feel that the absences are affecting the students' performance in the classroom. Parents seem to not be valuing the education system and don't see the importance of students being in school. There seems to be some favoritism, especially the athletic director and teachers who aren't reporting for a certain football player. The athletic director is approving these when board policy says that approval should come from principal. So it kind of seems to be a little ethical problem as far as chain of command and who has the power there. Talking about power, there's some power struggle. Mr. Rhodes is a new principal, and so having a veteran staff and teachers making decisions as relates to attendance can be an issue here. And then it was mentioned with one of the students how she was missing because of religious meetings taking place outside of school. And so another maybe legal or ethical issue could be, is the school discriminating by counting absences for religious purposes? So next we kind of synthesize and say what is actually happening here. So we have the new principal, Mr. Rhodes, is tasked with addressing attendance issues and is finding that there is a lack of communication, procedures, and consistency in documenting among the staff and teachers in the building. So next we look at what is known. First, looking at the people, we know that Mr. Rhodes is a new principal. Dr. Newman, the superintendent, wants to see attendance looked at by Mr. Rhodes and approved upon. A counselor is mentioned, and she kind of found to be negligible in her role in resolving issues of declining student achievement. The athletic director mentioned earlier shows favoritism towards a football player and kind of makes decisions on attendance at his own discretion. The different students that were listed is, first we have Karen, who's an 11th grader, has good grades as a freshman and sophomore. She got married this past August, and her grades and attendance have decreased. Parents have called the counselor so that they can meet with teachers, but nothing more was said if there was any follow-up on that. Tyrone is a 10th grader. He was had average progress in his classes. Parents took him on 2 different educational trips. They said that they were, educational trips and kind of once in a lifetime things, and this affected his attendance. Christina is a freshman. This was the religious one I was talking about. The minister had asked that she be excused to attend out of town church meetings, and she missed two major exams that affected her grades. Carl is a 10th grader. He's attended vocational classes in the afternoon. His parents don't seem to support strong attendance. His father didn't finish high school and it was a family business, so kind of think that's the path that Carl will be taking as well. And then we have John. John is a junior. He was the quarterback who was injured early and now goes to physical therapy, but apparently can only do that on Tuesday, Thursday afternoons. The athletic director also signed off on him going home Friday afternoon so he could rest. As far as place, we have Golden Oaks High School, 9 through 12, 965 students with a low turnover rate, with a lot of the staff being there at least 10 years. As far as the community, we know that it's mostly middle class, with some in poverty and others who have high income, slowly becoming more diverse with Hispanic and Asian families who move to the area. And that is adjacent to a metropolitan area where most spend about 1 to 2 hours commuting each day as far as family goes. As far as program, I put first semester attendance evaluation, which is kind of where we're at right now. And it was found that 659 students have 10 absences or more. We know the board policy and what it excuses as far as death and family, sickness, weather, things approved by the principal. It's aligned with state policy. And we also know that 5 or more unexcused in one semester should result in 10-point deductions from grades. There seems to be a positive relationship, as mentioned by Dr. Newman, between the social services and juvenile court system. And we also know that the school has a lot of extracurricular activities with 11 different sports and 31 different clubs. Some things that are unknown, we don't know anything really too much in depth as far as the demographics of the 5 students that were listed. So maybe having some more information on them would help. Nothing was ever mentioned. We know the school board policy, but don't hear anything mentioned about the school board members or their viewpoint on the attendance. And also some of the years of we know that a lot of teachers have been there for quite some time, but it's never really mentioned with certain teachers on how much experience those teachers have. As far as place, what's unknown, it was mentioned that this school is one of many high schools in the district, so we don't really know much about the other schools in this district or maybe what their attendance looks like. And then what, if anything, has caused the change in diversity over the community over time? And then as far as program, we don't know what programs are being used to track data or what professional development or data analysis is being done as a staff to address attendance issues. So kind of reviewing and prioritizing things, we know that Dr. Newman has identified that improving attendance is a top priority. We do know that there's a trend in decreased attendance and how that can impact student learning. It's important to get all stakeholders on the same page and create buy-in towards this goal. What data has been collected from stakeholders in regards to demographics, school processes, perceptions of student learning? We don't know any of that yet. And then how can we best meet the needs of our students and families to improve attendance and align to school goals? So some different options, things that we can look at as well as consequences. First and foremost, we could do nothing. And in doing nothing, attendance issues will continue, and I will not be addressing Dr. Newman's goals, which could reflect poorly on me. I could discipline the teachers and staff not following policy and hold students to policy expectations. This could also cause divided school staff. Maybe some staff will continue to resist. Students and families may become upset with me, which may affect my reputation as principal, especially this being my first year. Um, I could immediately have a staff meeting to go over expectations and review board policy. However, not all staff may get on board who are used to kind of doing it their own way. As it was mentioned, that there's a lot of staff that have been here for quite some time. And then I could also collect data from stakeholders to identify trends or root causes. And this in itself would be very time consuming to compile all that data and look at it and then go from there. So in evaluating the different options and doing nothing, the pros would be that it wouldn't cause a rift between teachers and admin. However, cons would be that it would decrease attendance, would impact student learning, and then I would not be fulfilling my obligations set by Dr. Newman. And disciplining the staff and teachers, not following policy, and holding students and families to policy expectations. As a pro would be that this would be a strong statement, reinforcing board policy. More accountability may help in decreasing unexcused absences. This may also show myself as a strong leader among veteran staff. However, it could also cause a rift between staff and admin. Students and families may resist, and nothing changes in terms of attendance. This may also put a negative outlook on myself for kind of rocking the boat. It's the option of immediate staff meetings over expectations and board policy. This would help get everyone on the same page. However, we still might have teachers who resist, especially those that have been here for a while. And then in collecting more data from stakeholders, it may help in identifying trends or root causes for decreased attendance among various subgroups, as well as help in identifying what needs stakeholders have that can be addressed. Once again, this is time consuming and may not have a data analysis system in place. And so doing all that would just take more time as well. So the choice I kind of chose to take is kind of a hybrid of the different options. First and foremost, coming back from Christmas break, I would have a staff meeting or on a professional development day or something coming back and just review the board policy and expectations as relates to attendance. I would show how the data trends of attendance over time have dropped and kind of compare that to student learning and achievement scores. And then also make it very clear that referring back to board policy, that unexcused absences should be approved by me, the principal, as stated by the board policy. Next, we need to make sure that we're holding students and families accountable for attendance and enforce board policy. And then I would also want to form a data team that can compile data in regards to demographics, perceptions, student learning, and school processes. Here, just have surveys for staff, students, and families, kind of getting their takes on things, not try to get as many people involved as I can, in creating that buy-in. And then this would help just in identifying the needs and ways that we can help as a school. And so then in implementing my decision, reviewing the expectations of board policies with staff after break, just have open conversations about our goals, that make it very clear that policy will be enforced. Look at trends in data over time compared to student learning. Informing that data team, we would want to make sure that we are evaluating the data to target what improvements need to be made, looking at things like demographics, perception, student learning, school processes, maybe creating data teams that create buy-in where everyone kind of feels a part of the process, and making sure that things are aligned towards the goal and vision of our school, and making sure that data is shared with teachers consistently to kind of help reinforce those goals. It's also going to be important to share policy with stakeholders and include data trends. Finding some sort of a graphic that can be easily understood would help. And then just make sure we're gaining that perception data from stakeholders to see what they are feeling or what their needs are. After the second semester is up, just continuing to hopefully to have a lot of data built up, compile that data and look for trends on or different subgroups that are in need. Use results also as a way to kind of drive professional development and look for resources that can help meet the needs of our students and families. And then finally, if progress is not being made with certain families, making sure that we're just utilizing social workers and our legal system to help handle those and make sure that we're trying our best to get students in school and looking out for their best interests. That is all I have. Thank you guys very much.